I'm calling this meeting to order. I ask our town clerk, Ann Spofford, to call an attendance roll call, please.
Councilman Baranowski.
Here.
Councilman Lombardi.
Here.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Channel.
Here.
Supervisor Kazari.
Here. If everyone would please rise and face the flag, and we ask Councilman Lombardi to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just ask that everyone remain standing for a moment of silence to remember those men and women fighting for us who provide us with the blanket of freedom that we live under each and every night. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lombardi. So now is the portion where we open up to residents' comments, agenda items only, 3 minutes, please. We're going to be held to 3 minutes. State your name, your address, and then come up to the mic. Okay. Oh.
Take this off. Hi, everybody. Jean Hopper, Mayapack. Happy New Year to you all. Mike, congratulations as our new town supervisor. I'm here because I got an awful lot of texts and emails over the last day regarding resolution number 5. So in order to maintain transparency and assure integrity, I'm certain that the town supervisor and the town board want to share with the residents the reasoning behind this appointment, as well as share the particulars. Namely, was this vacancy advertised? If so, where and when? Were other candidates interviewed? If so, how many? Is a civil service test required? And was that completed? Can the board explain Group 5, Step 2 salary level for residents who aren't familiar with unions and things like that? Does the supervisor and/or the town board have any concerns regarding conflict of interest, regarding the optics of this appointment, the security of town financials, or workplace ethics and decisions? And will the town supervisor recuse himself from this vote on the resolution number 5? So I know you'd all agree that these questions should be discussed before a vote is taken on resolution number 5, and that the public be made well aware of the reasons behind this appointment to maintain the transparency and goodwill. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. So the protocol is we accept your comments, and thank you very much. We're not going to be explaining or talking back to the people at the podium. But thank you, Ms. Hopper. Is anyone else? Okay, if there are no other comments, I move to accept the minutes from the December 15th, 2021 town board meeting.
Second.
We don't, the roll call vote? No. No. All in favor?
Aye.
That carried. Resolution number 1. Before we do that, Chief Hoffman, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. Good evening, Supervisor Kazari, members of the board. As you know from our executive session last week, the Town of Carmel Police Department will be experiencing a retirement at the end of the month with Detective Joseph LaPiccolo, our senior investigator. Joe has had a long and distinguished career with the CPD, and if I could, I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge him. He's here tonight with a lot of his colleagues. So, thank Joe. But that being said, with retirements come appointments. So in December of last year, I tasked Lieutenant Steve Kunz, our administrative division commander, to poll our patrol officers for anyone interested in becoming a detective with our department. We garnered 6 different patrol officers that expressed interest. They all had exemplary records, but one stood head and shoulders above the rest, and that is Police Officer Daniel Shea. Danny, as most of us know, and many of you know, he goes the extra mile in his normal duties. He shows a level of motivation and extra effort that made the choice quite natural when the command staff sat down and really thought this through. He's sought out training on his own in detective areas such as surveillance, preparing legal documents, interview and interrogation. He has an interest in this type of work. He comes in on his own time a lot to assist with investigations, whether it's with our own detective division, the Putnam County Sheriff's Office, or other state, local, even federal agencies. And he's made a number of quality arrests that have contributed to getting serious things such as firearms off our community streets and made our town much safer. Even then, he does the little things right. He's also a field training officer, so he has the patience and he takes the time to show our rookie officers the ropes. He shows them the way we do things, and he does that very well. So it was just like I said, it was a very natural choice. It was very easy for us to see that Danny was the obvious decision to become a detective. And in my role as police chief, I recommend to you, the members of the board, that we appoint Police Officer Daniel Shea to a detective with the Town of Carmel Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So I agree, he's an exceptional young man. So resolution number 1, resolution making probationary promotional appointment of detective, Town of Carmel Police Department. Be resolved that the town board of the Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of the police department, hereby appoints Officer Daniel Shea to the position of detective, effective immediately on a probationary basis, subject to the provisions of civil service law and civil service rules and regulations. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
With pleasure.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes, with pleasure.
Councilman Shannon.
Yes, with pleasure.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes. So carried. Daniel?
And could you please pull your microphone closer?
Yeah.
Because I don't look short next to Danny.
No, no.
How do we all fit?
Usually come down. We go down.
Just worked out that way.
thanks for members of the police department for coming. I really appreciate you guys showing up for Dan. Yes, and Joe, for enjoy retirement, but I'll be talking to you. So, resolution number 2, authorizing the schedule of public hearing on the fire protection districts and ambulance districts for 2022 contracts, February 9, 2022. Councilman Lombardi?
Excuse me. Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the scheduling of a public hearing on the fire protection contracts and the ambulance district contracts for the year 2022 to be held on the 9th of February 2022 at Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue, Mahopac, New York, at 7 o'clock or soon thereafter that evening as possible. Said contracts to be advertised and posted as follows. And there's 3 different columns: contractor, services, and not to exceed amount. First is Mahopac Falls Volunteer Fire Department, Fire Protection District Number 1, amount not to exceed $846,500. Next is Mahopac Volunteers Fire Department, Inc., Fire Protection District Number 2, not to exceed $1,500,000. Next, Carmel Fire District and Carmel Fire Department, Inc., Fire Protection District Number 3, not to exceed $888,375. Next is Carmel Volunteer Ambulance Corps. This is Ambulance Service Carmel Ambulance Service District 1, not to exceed $220,000. Next, North Salem Volunteer Ambulance Corps, Ambulance Service Carmel Ambulance District Number 1, not to exceed $13,000. Be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to publish a notice of the public hearing in the official newspapers of the town and to post a notice of said hearing on the bulletin board of the town. Said notices to be published and posted a minimum of 10 days prior to the public hearing. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilman Baranowski. Roll call?
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
And Supervisor Kazari?
Aye. That's passed. Resolution number 3, making appointment of assessment assistant, Office of Town Assessor. Councilman Channel.
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby appoints Barbara Alasko to the position of Assessment Assistant in the Town of Carmel Assessor's Office at a CSEA Group 5, Step 2 salary level effective immediately, subject to the provisions of civil service law and civil service rules and regulations. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough and Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, carried. Resolution number 4, making probationary appointment of real property appraiser, Office of the Town Assessor. Be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby appoints Amanda Clarisi to the position of real property appraiser in the Town of Carmel Assessor's Office at CSEA Group 7, Step 2, salary level effective immediately on a probationary basis and subject to provisions of civil service law and civil service rules and regulations. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman
Seconded by Councilman Lombardi.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, that carried. Number 5, making appointment of senior account clerk, Town of Carmel Accounting Department. Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby appoints Doreen Kazari to the position of Senior Account Clerk in the Town of Carmel Accounting Office at a CSEA Group 5, Step 2 salary level, effective immediately, subject to the provisions of civil service law and the civil service rules and regulations. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Second by Councilman Channel. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Abstain. That carried. Resolution number 6, authorizing request for proposal pursuant to Property Maintenance Law, Chapter 114. Councilman Baranowski.
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, in accordance with Chapter 114 of the Town of Carmel Town Code titled Property Maintenance, hereby authorizes Town of Carmel Director of Codes Enforcement Michael Carnazza to solicit, request proposals for the cleanup and correction of town code violations existing for the property located at 300 Seminary Hill Road, Town of Carmel, TM number 66.2-20.3. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lombardi and Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shano?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, motion carried. Resolution number 7, authorizing improvements at Sycamore Park, Eagle Scout candidate Connor Watts, Troop 1, Mahopac. Councilman Lombardi?
Resolved, the Town Board of Town of Carmel, in connection with the proposed Eagle Scout project of Connor Watts of Boy Scout Troop 1, Mahopac, New York, hereby authorizes the performance of improvements at Sycamore Park in accordance with the memorandum and plans provided by Director of Recreation and Parks, James R. Gilchrist, as detailed in his memorandum to the Town Board dated January 3rd, 2022. And be it further resolved that upon presentation of insurance certificates for all vendors and contractors proposed to perform improvements in connection with this authorization in form acceptable as to Town Council, the aforesaid work may be commenced. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi? Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shano?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, motion carried. Resolution number 8, authorizing renewal of licensing agreement with American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. Councilman Shannell.
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the renewal of the license agreement with ASCAP for public performances of copyrighted music for the year 2022 at an annual rate of $390, and be it further resolved that James Gilchrist, Director of Recreation and Parks, is hereby authorized to sign any necessary documents and/or reports concerning said renewal on behalf of the Town of Carmel. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shano?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, resolution passed. Number 9, authorizing request for proposals, concession stand at Sycamore Park. Be resolved that pursuant to the request of the Director of Recreation and Parks, the Town Clerk of the Town of Carmel is hereby authorized to solicit proposals for a vendor to operate the concession stand at Sycamore Park for a 3-year period commencing March 21st, 2022. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shano?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, resolution passed. Number 10, authorizing advertisement for bids, dry hydrant installation, Carmel Fire Protection District Number 2. Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes, resolved that Ann Spotford, Town Clerk of the Town of Carmel, is hereby authorized to advertise for bids for the installation of a dry hydrant within Carmel Fire Protection District Number 2 at 278 Drewville Road location. And be further resolved that such authorization shall be deemed to include any necessary professional surveying services which may be required in connection with the design and installation construction of the referenced dry hydrant. And be further resolved that upon finalization and completion of bid specifications, Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., is to furnish detailed specifications for the above to the Town Clerk, which are to be used in conjunction with the town's general bid conditions and specifications. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lombardi and Councilman Shannell. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shano?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, resolution carried. Number 11, authorizing emergency repair service Carmel Water and Sewer Districts. Councilman Baranowski?
Resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of the various water and sewer districts of the Town of Carmel, hereby acknowledges the emergency performance of water and sewer district collection system, distribution system, and treatment facilities repairs as fully detailed in the memorandum of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., to the Town Board dated December 28, 2021, as attached hereto and made a part thereof. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Second by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, resolution carried. Number 12, authorizing entry into agreement with East of Hudson Watershed Corporation for installation of stormwater retrofit project. Councilman Lombardi?
Resolve the Town Board of Town of Carmel, upon recommendation of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., hereby authorizes into an agreement with East of Hudson Watershed Corporation and the County of Putnam for the installation of stormwater retrofit facilities on property on the Town of Carmel, said agreement to be in form and content as currently on file with the Office of the Town Supervisor. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Channel. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes. Resolution approved. 13, resolution authorizing the purchase of microfiltration membrane units, Carmel Sewer District Number 2 Water Treatment Plant. Councilman Channel.
Whereas Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., has advised the Town Board of the Town of Carmel that the existing microfiltration membrane units at the Carmel Sewer District Number 2 wastewater treatment plant are in need of replacement, and whereas the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, known as NYC DEP, has agreed to wholly and fully fund the acquisition, design, and installation of the replacement microfiltration membrane units to replace the existing units. Pursuant to a pilot study commissioned by NYC DEP and conducted at the Carmel Sewer District Number 2 WWTP, and whereas the Town Board has determined that the acquisition of the aforesaid membrane units are exempt from the New York General Municipal Law as a sole source exemption. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of Carmel Sewer District Number 2, hereby accordingly authorize the purchase of the acquisition of the microfiltration membrane units from Film Tech Corporation, Edina, Minnesota, at a cost not to exceed $285,855.50, and be it further resolved that the Town Controller, Mary Ann Maxwell, is hereby authorized to add the cost authorized herein to Carmel Sewer District Number 2, Q1 2022, invoice to NYC DEP for regulatory upgrade reimbursement, and be it further resolved that the Town Controller is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget revisions to effect the aforesaid purchase transactions authorized herein. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, resolution carried. Resolution number 14, accepting proposal for professional service environmental remediation. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby accepts the proposal of Duchess Environmental Construction, Mayapack, New York, for petroleum spill remediation services at the town-owned property located at South Lake Boulevard in Mahopac. Said services being at an estimated at a cost of $19,465, and be it further resolved that upon presentation of insurance certificates in form acceptable to Town Council, Town Supervisor Michael Kazari is hereby authorized to execute any and all documentation reasonably necessary to effectuate the purchase authorized hereunder, and be it further resolved that the town controller, Mary Ann Maxwell, is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilman Baranowski. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Shano.
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes. Number 15, authorizing attendance at seminar, Town Engineer Richard Franzetti, New York Water Environmental Association Conference, February 7, 2022. Councilman Baranowski, would you read that?
Certainly. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes Town of Carmel Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., to attend the New York Water Environment Association, NYWEA Conference in New York City, Marriott Marquis, on February 7, 2022, at a cost of $458.28, and be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel authorizes payment of reasonable and necessary expenses incurred in connection therewith upon audit. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Shano.
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes, resolution passed. Resolution number 16, authorizing signing of change order number 1, Carmel Sewer District number 2, wastewater treatment plant bar screen and grit clarifier replacement contract number C1275. Councilman Lombardi, would you read that?
Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Carmel had previously awarded the contract for the above project to Whitcon, Inc., Thompson Ridge, New York, and whereas Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., has provided a proposed change order number 1 to the aforesaid contract to the Town Board for consideration and review. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Carmel, acting as Commissioners of Carmel Sewer District number 2, hereby authorizes Town Supervisor Michael Kazari to sign change order number 1 to the aforementioned contract, resulted in no overall contract price increase or decrease. Said change order to be in form as attached here to and made part hereof. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Shano. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Shano.
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes, resolution passed. Resolution 17, resolution approving application for tuition reimbursement, Carmel Police Department. Councilman Shano, would you read that?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, in accordance with the terms of the current collective bargaining agreement with the Town of Carmel Police Benevolent Association, hereby pre-approves the application for tuition reimbursement of P.O. Sandy Creco for the fall 2021 academic term at SUNY Empire Online University, and in conjunction with a Bachelor's of Science curriculum. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilman Baranowski and Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Shano.
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes, resolution passed. Resolution 18, resolution authorizing advertising for bids. Resolved that pursuant to the request of Town of Carmel Chief of Police Anthony Hoffman, Town Clerk Ann Spofford is hereby authorized to advertise for bids for the cleaning of the Town of Carmel Police Department uniforms for calendar year 2022, and be it further resolved that Police Chief Anthony Hoffman is to furnish detailed specifications for the above to Town Clerk Ann Spofford to be used in conjunction with the town's general bid conditions and specifications. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Shano and Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Shano.
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes, resolution passed. Resolution 19, resolution authorizing award of bid for purchase of gasoline for town vehicles. Councilman Baranowski, could you read that for me?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Chief of Police Anthony Hoffman, hereby authorizes the award of bid for purchase of gasoline for town vehicles for the period of December 17, 2021 through December 14, 2023, from Global Montebello Group, Waltham, Massachusetts, under New York State Office of General Services contract number PC 69516 at the unit prices set forth therein. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shannon?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, resolution passed. Resolution 20, resolution authorizing award of bid for purchase of police uniforms. Councilman Lombardi, would you mind?
Resolve the Town Board of Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Chief of Police Anthony Hoffman, hereby authorizes the award of bids for purchase of uniforms for the Town of Carmel Police Department for the period May 31 through the period of May 31, 2025, from Gales LLC. What?
Goals.
Gauls LLC, Lexington, Kentucky, under the New York State Office of General Service contract number PC 69021 at the unit price set forth therein. I offer the resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough and Councilman Shannon. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shannon?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, resolution passed. Resolution 21, resolution authorizing acceptance of proposal for police vehicle equipment installation. Councilman Shannon?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Chief of Police Anthony Hoffman, hereby accepts the proposal of CMJ Emergency Lighting, Copeg, New York, for equipment installation on the Town of Carmel 2021 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle at a cost not to exceed $13,591.33, in accordance with the proposal of December 31st, 2021. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough and Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shannon?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, resolution passed. Resolution 22, resolution persuading to Governor Hochul's Executive Order Number 11.1- Accessor Exemption Application. Resolved that pursuant to Executive Order Number 11.1, as well as subdivision 7, 7A, and 8 of Section 459-C of the Real Property Tax Law, and subdivisions 5, 5A, 5B, 5C, and 6 of Section 467 of the Real Property Tax Law, Town Assessor Glenn Drosy is hereby authorized to grant exemptions pursuant to such section on the 2022 assessment roll to all property owners who received that exemption on the 2021 assessment roll, hereby dispensing with the need for renewal applications for such persons, and further dispensing with the requirement for assessors to mail renewal applications to such persons, and be it further resolved that the town assessor may require a renewal application to be filed with when he has reason to believe that an owner who qualified for the exemption on the 2021 assessment roll may have since changed his or her primary residence, added another owner to the deed, or transferred the property to a new owner, or is now deceased. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilman Baranowski and Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shannon?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, resolution carried. Resolution 23, resolution authorizing award of bid for the purchase of road salt, Town of Carmel Highway Department. Councilman Baranowski, would you please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Highway Superintendent Michael Simone, hereby authorizes the awarding of bid for the purchase of road salt for the period of September 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2022 from Morton Salt, Inc., under New York State Office of General Services Group number 18000, award number 23248, contract number PC 69477, at the unit prices set forth therein. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shannell?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, resolution passed. So now is the portion for town board members' comments. Do you have anything?
No.
No? Bob?
No.
You know, I don't know, I guess I could say it now, just so I don't forget it later on.
Say it again later.
But, yeah, but we lost another great person last week, Danny Maloney. He's given so much to this community. He's going to be really very, very sorely missed. He was huge and instrumental in the St. Patty's Day Parade, and he's done a real lot for this community. So my prayers go and condolences go out to his family. And Danny, we're going to miss you.
God bless.
Just one item from me. I wanted to just acknowledge and publicly thank Senator Harkin's office for the law enforcement grant that we received. We certainly will put that money to good use, and of course, you know, there's no greater responsibility than we have here than public safety. So I thank his office, and I'm sure that the supervisor was probably going to just mention this anyway, so if you want to add to that.
No, that's good.
Okay.
I'd like my chief of staff take my comment part.
Thank you, Supervisor Kazari. As the HR consultant for at least the past 8 years, when there's a notice of vacancy and there's movement within the town of Carmel, we have to follow civil service rules and regulations. I meet on a regular basis with our Putnam County Director of Personnel, Mr. Paul Eldridge. Vacancies are noticed internally, and we also have 3 collective bargaining unions. One of them is the CSEA, and all these people are part of the collective bargaining unit. Ms. Kazari was a previous employee here and an exemplary employee. She has an outstanding record, and she also worked for the school district. When we had notice of vacancies first in the building department, she happens to be, oh, by the way, let me backtrack. She happens to be on the campus list, the account clerk too, senior account clerk. When there was a vacancy in the building department for an account clerk, she submitted her letter of interest. She was on the campus list. We always canvassed at least the first 5 top people, employees, candidates on those lists. They were all, we have to select by law, by civil service law, the top 3. Also, in that realm, we had other candidates that came in, were interviewed, done according to civil service rules and regulations. There was no special treatment. There wasn't anything done out of context. It was all done according to law. And I just need to say that. As far as salaries go, they're all part of the collective bargaining agreement. The groups, steps are all part of the collective bargaining agreement, and that is foilable if you'd like to get it.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you. A motion to close this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that closes our voting meeting. So if I could have a motion to open the work session.
So moved.
Do you have all those? So all in favor?
Aye.
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 So this begins the town board work session. Is an opportunity for any resident that wants to get up. There's 3 minutes that you can speak to agenda items only. Thank you, Ann Spofford.
Thanks, Ann.
All right, if there are no public comments, I ask the board to review the town board minutes from January 5th, 2022 that you were all given. Moving to the first agenda item. Consider additions, deletions to the active list of Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department. We have a letter to Ann Spofford, Town Clerk, Town of Carmel, from Edward J. Scott, corresponding secretary for the Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department. Dear Ann, please make the following changes to the active membership of Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department, Inc. Delete the following members. So there's no additions then. So delete the, no, there is. Delete the following members. With regard, the department announces the passing of 46-year member John Goodrow. John served a total of 61 years in the fire service, with 15 in Bedford Hills and 46 in Mahopac. I think we all knew John Goodrow. He was a really good person.
Mr. Goodrow.
He will be missed. Add the following new members: Michael Ricci, Mahopac, New York. Thank you for your assistance, Edward J. Scott. Number 2, James Gilchrist, Director of Recreation, Parks, and Nita Kalmeyer, Senior Recreation Leader, consider request to authorize purchase and installation of playground equipment, Town of Carmel Airport Park. Jim, thank you for coming.
All right, thanks for having us. So I'll give you a quick background on where we are now. This project started probably about 3 years ago, and with the onset of COVID, it really stopped the project midstream of the grant process, pretty much stopped the grant, and then it restarted and we got it approved. So we're all set with the grant through New York State. And the development of the airport playground came from, we had requests for probably 2 years before we put these plans together to have inclusive playground pieces in different parks. If everybody remembers, down in the Chamber Park, we were looking to put some pieces down there, and each piece was around $30,000, and we were trying to kind of nestle it in there, and it was just too much equipment for a small park. We're concerned about the roadways. If a child would run onto Sycamore Road or onto 6N. We looked at some other parks, and then the Recreation Committee said, we're building a new playground up at the airport park. Why don't we put an inclusive playground, the whole playground designed for everybody, for kids with needs and for kids that are going to run around in the playground, so all children can enjoy it. So we have, and Nina will get to all the fun stuff later on, but this playground is designed for parents to go on, kids in wheelchairs. Everybody can enjoy this playground. It's a wonderful piece of equipment. We had a nice committee that Nina will also talk about that worked on it. Frank and Susie were at the meetings we did it over about 3 years. There's a tremendous amount of work that went in. We had certain criteria. It had to be an airport theme, had to be patriotic colors, red, white, and blue, and it had to have an inclusive playground pieces. So, and part of the grant, we had $250,000 that Senator Harcum, as soon as he got on board here, he met with Supervisor Schmidt. He said, what are you guys looking for? We were developing and finalizing the airport park. Right out of the box, he came out with $250,000 was set aside for the airport park. So that was a real nice shot in the arm. So we had, from other senators, we had a couple, I think 2 or 3 other grants before that. So it really helped us out with this project. So for the $250,000, we have the playground, a pavilion, and some other amenities that will be funded through that. Obviously, the playground is probably one of the biggest pieces. The playground was supposed to be a volunteer installation. Well, we were looking to get about 50 community members. We had about 24 on the committee. It's not going to happen. There's no way I feel that we can get a group of volunteers together. The Recreation Committee advised me, and this is where we're going forward, not using a volunteer installation and going with a professional installation that is available under state contract. So that was an additional $35,000. The rec committee recommended going with that. So we would not be able to, I don't think, comfortably able to get the people out there to get it done. If you had an uptick or something happened, you need to have everybody on site for certain days. It's not worth the risk. So the contractors would come in, they would take care of it. They'd be in and out of there in a couple days, and so that's what we're recommending going with. Spending another $35,000, it's a little bit more, but in the long run, I think it's definitely worth it. It's not worth taking a chance having all that equipment there and not being able to get it installed. Because what's going to happen is, if you don't have the people there, it just drags. You have to pay for the installers to be there, the oversight, which is probably $5,000 a day, and that could add up if you have to go for a couple weekends. So it's under New York State contract, but it's called Sourcewell. If you saw the backup, it's a booklet that I gave you guys. We would buy it. The highway department is a member on this. If you remember a couple of years ago, they bought backhoes and some other equipment. It's bought through Sourcewell under the New York State contract. So that would be the contract. So we would go directly through Play World, and they will pay for all of the equipment and also for the installation. So it would be one check right to them, and then we would get fully reimbursed from New York State for this. It's 100% reimbursement. So the town will fund it, and then as soon as we get the receipts, we'll send it into the state for a full reimbursement. So
They
Mary
don't
Ann,
get paid till it's done, though, right?
after it's installed and
it's inspected and we know it's
and what happens
proper.
is the state will audit the bills, so they make sure the prevailing wages and all that is correct in place. And once that's all done, then they will issue us a check.
Okay.
Mary Ann's fully aware of this. She'll develop a capital line within the budget to handle this. I'm not going forward with the pavilion. The costs of metal and other materials are just too expensive right now. So my recommendation would just to keep that on the back burner until things settle down a little bit and come and check. The playground equipment, it's on the state bid. It's there. It's a real number. So why don't you get to the good stuff and
Jim pretty much said everything I had to say.
Yeah. So Nina and Jim, just one thing. This is just for the equipment, right? This is not for the surfacing
Yes.
yet?
Yep.
Okay.
It's just for the equipment.
Okay.
So I'll just go over, and as I talk, Rich, if you could press play. We have a little, it's pretty much a flyby of what the actual playground would look like. So I thought this would be a good idea to show you guys so that you could see what we came up with. So just a little background on the whole project. We, in 2018, a group of individuals reached out to us. They wanted to start a playground committee or a group to get a all-inclusive playground going within the town of Carmel Park system. So we decided, like Jim said, that we were going to do this at the airport park. We started meeting with the committee in January of 2020. There was a group of about 24 individuals that met with us on a regular basis. As we went through the whole process, we gave them a bunch of different brochures of different playground companies to see which company they liked the best. There's so many different companies out there, but we wanted to have them look at the different equipment. After going through multiple companies, we came up with 3 companies that they liked the most. Those companies were Compound, which we have their playground at the Chamber Park. That's more of a, it's a different style of a playground, more like you would see over in the UK. Then we also had Landscape Structures, which they do a bunch of playgrounds throughout the area, and Play World, which we have their playgrounds at Sycamore, Baldwin Meadows, and at Camarda Park. So each company came in, did a presentation for the playground committee. They came up with designs for us. We told them what we were looking for, like Jim said, an airport theme, patriotic colors, as well as to make it an all-inclusive playground. So they decided at that point unanimously that they wanted to go with Play World. So we worked with them directly on this design that you see up here on the screen. If you want to take a look at it, there are a few different parts as you go around. There's this one portion where it looks like cubes. That's a whole climbing cube with a slide on the side. The main structure has a bunch of different inclusive elements on it. There is an element on there where you can wheel the wheelchair all the way up. It's called an AeroGlide. They get onto that piece, and they can sit on there with children of all abilities or parents as well. So it's not like they're disconnected in a different area. They're included in the play, which is really important, and it glides back and forth. There's a bunch of different areas on the main structure that have different inclusive play that are on the floor. So someone either in a wheelchair or someone who, has a disability can get over to that and still play with all the other children. Also, another big thing that they wanted was swings, and swings for every age. So we have a massive swing structure, I would say. You have 2 baby swings on the end, you have 2 regular swings, and then you have a handicap accessible swing and a mommy and me swing, which I thought was pretty cool because I was pregnant at the time when we were coming up with the son. But the mom sits on one side, you put the kid on the other side, and you swing together, which I think is a really cool aspect to have. I had some more pictures for you guys, but we couldn't get it up there. But the placement of the playground is going to be on the top end of the park. So if you're coming into the airport, you have the parking lot, and then you have the fields in front of you. So the building is going to be on your right-hand side, the playground will be on your left, and it sits on the top. So when you're standing up there, you can oversee the whole park, which we thought was really great, because if you're a parent and you have a bunch of children, you can have some of them on the playground while you're also watching over the kids' games. So the placement is ideal. It is adjacent to some handicapped spots. We're going to put those spots right next to the playground. And it's also adjacent to the building. So that was really important when we decided on the placement of the playground. Once the committee decided on the final look, which you see here, we brought that to the Recreation Committee. They approved the design elements, and we were planning on moving forward. We were waiting on the grant, and then COVID came into play, so we kind of put this on the back burner. But we did have in our packet as well surfacing options. There are a bunch of different options for surfacing. Obviously, they all have different prices, and it's something that the Rec Committee is going to be looking at moving forward. But we both think that, wood chips is probably the best option at this point. If you look at the pricing of the surfacing, it can get very expensive, but we can figure that out down the line before the playground gets installed. The installer did tell us that there is a 16-week lead time on the materials, so if we want to order this now, we'll hopefully get it in for the summer. It's just, with materials at this point, everything is taking a long time to get over here. The new price, so the price was supposed to be around 100 grand, obviously it went up. The price increase was due to the material costs, and I think that's about it. Like Jim did say, the Sourcewell contract does cover everything, so.
Thank you.
Nina, with the surfacing materials, did you price those out already? You said.
Yep.
What's the lead time for those?
Surfacing?
Yeah.
Well, wood chips we can get pretty quickly if we needed to put those in very quickly. The rest of the surfacing, it's something that we'd have to talk to Playworld about. I'm not sure exactly what the lead time would be on something like that. It's something that we should figure out sooner than later.
Yeah, the surfing, so the it's called engineer mulch. There's a supplier right off Buxton Hollow Road, so that could be delivered any time.
Okay.
And that would be so it would be delivered on site, and we would use our staff with a Kubota to spread that out. If you use the rubber mulch, which is half the depth, same thing. You'd have it bring in bulk. You get that in bulk delivered. Probably take a week or two to get it delivered on site. That's not a big deal. Once you start getting into the next levels with the poured in place or the tile, you would go out. You'd have to hire a contractor. There's specialized contractors. Dave Fafaro has a list of them. He's used them on a couple of jobs that they've used at schools. You're probably looking at a 2-month window. That's why we kind of held off on that. We're still discussing it. Some of our committee members want to go with that kind of a surface, the poured in place one. It's basically rubberized surface that they go out and they actually pour it in, and it hardens somewhat in the area. But they have limited life. It's obviously with the heaving of the soil and stuff in these conditions, you've got to prep the area below it, and they get very expensive. You're looking over $100,000 versus $30,000, for rubber mulching, you get a little bit less for that. So that's something that the committee will be discussing.
Jim, how does the contractor, after he's finished, how does he leave the surface after that?
He will leave it with the borders and with dirt underneath it, and then we will come in with whatever our surface is right after that.
All right.
There'll be a safety fence around the playground, so we would have our coordination as soon as they leave. We're coming in with the surface, so
Okay.
we would have that lined up.
Yeah, and the only reason I was asking about which, the surface and the time periods is because if we want to get this in for the summer, let's say, which is 4 months,
Yep.
sooner or later, or sooner rather than later, we'd probably have to decide upon the surface. This way, we can coordinate that all together, this way in 4 months, it's completely done.
All of our other playgrounds, we've used the engineered, the mulch, the wood mulch, and it's a no-brainer. I mean, you come right in as soon as they finish, you come right in with that, and you're done in 2 days.
Okay.
How often do you have to replace that? Is that once a year, or that lasts for a while?
Usually you'll come in every other year and you fine tune it. You'll bring a truckload in. So what we do is we'll bring a truckload into Sycamore, a tractor trailer load in, and then we'll bring it in and we'll put it in a low boy dump truck, and we'll bring a couple loads to each park, and then we'll a lot of the swing areas will get low, the wear areas below sides, and you fill those areas in. Sycamore Park takes a lot of material there. We get a lot of washout. It's at the bottom of the hill. The other parks seem to, you get probably a good 5 years out of a solid before you really need a big load in there. So if you keep up on it, every 2 years you touch it up, you're in pretty good shape.
Okay, thanks.
Jim, apologies if I missed it. Does the grant cover the installation also?
Yeah. So what we did, so the grant, I'll tell you what we did for the breakdown. So this was an estimate that I had for the $250,000. So I estimated the cost for the playground to be $120,500. I think we're at 150 on this.
Yes.
So that did not include the $35,000 for the installation. So we have here I have playground mulch at $5,000. I have a pavilion here at $44,000. I have the installation of the pavilion at $52,000. I have picnic tables at $19,000, and I have garbage cans at $8,000. They were just budget numbers that I threw into the grant. So obviously, some of those numbers we can move them around. We have $100,000 in a playground line on a capital line within the recreation budget in the airport line that we're going to use as part of this project for fencing, picnic tables, and also as a possible, for the safety surface. It's to fine-tune the playground, knowing that we're not going to have enough through this grant to fully fund the whole playground. We set that aside as part of the operating budget. So we'll have enough to cover that. So the $100,000 is almost like a contingency to finish up this project.
Okay, thank you.
So Jimmy and Nina, my only concern with the wood chips is it being an all-inclusive park. You try to remember, like, you have the kids in the wheelchairs and you have the kids possibly with the walkers to help them stabilize themselves. And with the wood chips, even if it gets steeper, that may become an issue. So, maybe talk to some people or even get a wheelchair or have somebody go down to Sycamore to see how it's going to do, because I hate to put in a great all-inclusive park, but yet it's really difficult for the people that we want to try to use it to get in to use it. So maybe, do a test drive with maybe down in Sycamore.
We will, yeah.
Everybody's good?
Thank you very much. That was very informative.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for having us.
So item 3, Richard Franzetti, Town Engineer, consider request to acknowledge emergency repairs and services Carmel Sewer District Number 2.
Good evening.
Evening.
Just to start this off, this is funded by the New York City DEP, so either half or all of it will be paid for by the New York City DEP. So in January 5th, 2020, Infomark notified the engineering department that the control screen for the UV system failed. Due to the age of the system, it's not under warranty, and we can't find replacement parts. Infomark is currently running the UV system manually, and they're unable to determine if bulbs or ballast controls are failing or not, so that's important with regards to maintaining our speedies permit and compliance within that. So it was deemed an emergency. We told them to purchase this at $19,220 with an installation of $4,760. That's about all we got. So just wanted to make the board aware of that particular instance going on in Sewer District 2.
Thank you.
Any questions? Sorry.
Looks good, thanks. So number 4 is the Hazen Arcades presentation, East of Hudson Community Watershed Planning Assistance Program.
So, Mr. Supervisor, we're going to be giving a presentation. I have with us tonight, we have representatives from Arcadis, Kevin Hogan and Paul Daniele, from Hazen, Larry G. and Kurt Mattress, and myself. This is the presentation that we're going to be giving at the NIWEA conference. Just want to let the board know, I know you approved me tonight to be able to attend it, but the NIWEA conference has gone virtual, so I will be presenting virtually at this particular conference. So that all happened. Frank, your insightfulness of it all. Here we are doing it virtually. So just give me a second.
Just like everything else.
They did the
Courts.
town
Courts.
one went virtual. You would think it was going to.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to make this go relatively quick. It's about 30 slides, but we'll make it go as fast as possible. Yeah, could you please? So let me just, there's one more thing. Apologize for that. So as the board may be aware, we can hit the first slide. This study was to evaluate wastewater solutions and water quality impacts from septic systems on local water bodies. The New York City DEP identified 8 study areas where they felt that poorly functioning septic systems had the potential to impact water quality and the drinking water supply for New York City here in the east of Hudson. The areas included in the town of Carmel, Lake Cassie, Lake Gilead, Lakeview Road, and Mud Pond Brook. The town of Kent had Palmer Lake, and the town of Lewisboro had Lake Wacabuck, Lake Truesdale, and Lake Kitchewan. All of our town areas were included were in the Croton Reservoir System. The study was requested to support requirements of the filtration avoidance document from 2017. The study was funded by New York City DEP through the East of Hudson Community Wastewater Planning Assistant Grant Program. The funds were to be used by municipalities to finance these engineering studies, which both Arcadis and Hazen performed for the town, to understand evaluating wastewater solutions that could mitigate the potential problems. The reports were to determine costs to identify, to treat the wastewater and do the wastewater projects, and to seek financing through state and federal funding sources, including the Clean Water Act. The town circulated about 13 proposals to 13 engineering firms in 2020. 6 firms responded. In November of 2020, the town board selected Arcadis of New York for Lake Gilead and for the Lakeview study area. Those are located in the Sewer District 2 area. And Hazen for the Lake Cassie and Mud Pond Brook area, which really would impact the Mayapack plant here. So those are in this area here. The project commenced in December of 2020, and the final report was given back to the New York City DEP on December 1st of 2021. So the treatment alternatives, were required in the report to look at septic maintenance district formations or conveying sewerage to an existing wastewater treatment plant, a new community septic system, or a new wastewater treatment plant with groundwater discharge. That's what they wanted us to focus on. We also looked at a no-action alternative, was considered of the limited opportunities to further reduce phosphorus by using any of the original ideas that the city had come up with. So any of those other things may not have been effective. The study areas awarded to Arcadis were Lake Gilead, it's 247 acres. In the Croton Falls, it goes through Lake Gilead, 118-acre lake, and includes 178 residential parcels. The Lakeview study area is approximately 45-acre drainage area, which drains directly into the 1,600-acre Croton Falls Reservoir, and there are 62 residential parcels up in that way. Hazen had the Mud Pond Brook study area and approximately a 467-acre drainage area, which drains to the Croton Falls Reservoir, 13-acre mud through the Mud Pond, 13-acre Mud Pond and Mud Pond Brook, which includes about 209 residences. And Lake Cassie is an approximately 255-acre drainage area to Croton Falls through the 32-acre Lake Cassie and includes 243 residential units. With that, I'm going to hand this next step over to Kevin from Arcadis, and then Larry from Hazen will come up and just talk about the findings they had for their particular study areas.
All right, thanks, Rich. I'm just going to slide this over a little bit. Get the laptop in front of me. All right, so as Rich had said, our two areas were Lake Gilead and the Lakeview Road areas. And you can see in these maps the parcels are in pink around Lake Gilead. You can see that was our area to investigate. And then for Lakeview Road, it was really just Lakeview Road adjacent to Croton Falls Reservoir. And so we're basically looking at septic systems. Are the septic systems failing? So there are three main ways septic systems can fail. Oh, first, this is a conventional septic system. And I'm away from the mic, but it's small enough you guys can hear me. But where basically you go into your septic tank, and then it goes down a distribution box and drains into a leach field. And the leach field, that's where the treatment occurs. So you want a relatively flat area. You want a pretty large yard, well, large enough to appropriately size this leach field. You want good soils. You don't want it to be really rocky. You don't want it to, because you want the water to go through the soil. You don't want high groundwater because then it gets into the groundwater. So the three ways it could fail is ponding, which you might have seen this, where it's no longer getting through, or it's coming up onto the surface because it can't get through to be treated. A direct discharge, where someone might have a septic tank, but if there's like a body of water or something, they'll have a pipe and it discharges to the body of water, which luckily we didn't find any of those. And then the last one is short circuiting. And so what can happen with short circuiting is if you have a very high groundwater table and maybe not right soil conditions, the sewage can get into the groundwater, and then it'll travel in the groundwater, get to the bodies of water, your streams, rivers, lakes. And so we were looking for those three modes of failure. So what do we look at? So as I talked a little bit about this earlier, but we're looking at, for the environmental settings, we're looking at where are the water bodies? How close are the water bodies? Is there a lot of slope in the yards? Are the yards big enough? What are the soil conditions? Is it appropriate for a septic system and leach field? We looked at historical data. So we talked to the Putnam County Department of Health. They maintain information on septic systems, and so we got all the information from them, went through to identify how often are people needing to repair their system, how often are they pumping out their systems. We looked at existing infrastructure. If we were to sewer the community, can the wastewater treatment plant handle it? Can the pump stations handle it? Where are there existing sewers? There's actually, for Lake Gilead, there's to the north area, there are sewers, and there are some homes that just haven't hooked up to the sewer yet. So want to look and find out where the infrastructure is. Looking at water quality as well. So evaluation of alternatives. Rich mentioned several alternatives, and so one is, if you were to sewer it and get to the wastewater treatment plant, for these areas, one of the reasons why they're not on sewer now is because they're in a lower area than the current gravity sewer that exists. And Lakeview, it's in a depressed area, and you'd have to pump up. And so the one alternative is a low-pressure sewer. So a low-pressure sewer, you'd have what's called a grinder pump at your house, and you pump it into a collection main in the street, and then it would go to a gravity sewer. So we evaluated the use of if you put everybody on a low-pressure sewer system, and then if you would have enough room in your pump stations and your wastewater treatment plant. Another thing we looked at is community septic systems. The DEP really favors these. It's basically, instead of each home having a leach field, you have a septic tank at each home, and then you bring it to a central area where you can really plan for your leach field. You can make sure the septic tank's being pumped out, make sure that the area's being inspected regularly, and just keep an eye on it, make sure everything's working properly. And then there's a septic maintenance program or a maintenance district where you actually form a district and people pay into this district, and there's folks that will go around and make sure that your septic system's working properly. And so those are the main ones that we're looking at. And then so some of the specifics for the different areas. So for Lake Gilead, there were 53 residential homes with septic systems, and so they would contribute about 16,000 gallons per day of septic effluent. The soil conditions in this area are they're characterized as limited or somewhat limited, which means they're not ideal for septic systems, but it doesn't mean that they can't work. The septic system can't work, but it's not as ideal as it could be. The review of septic repair permits filed through Putnam County since 1971 showed about 4% failures per year. That just means that people are calling to get a replacement for their septic tank or their leach field, or doing a complete replacement. It's usually about 2 every year, 2 of the 53 homes in any given year. That was pretty consistent. And so we did a model of what would the phosphorus load be if you had that failure rate onto the bodies of water. And again, it's like a theoretical. So if people have something that's failing and they're replacing it, then it's not necessarily contributing pollutants to the water bodies. I should have brought water. You had a good idea there. It's dry. So we modeled it and found that for septic system failure, it could be contributing about 14.4% of the phosphorus loading to Lake Gilead. On the Lakeview roadside, there's 62 residents. Residents. It would be contributing about 19,000 gallons of effluent. And this area is characterized as they have pretty limited soils. Again, the septic systems there are working. It's just it wouldn't be an ideal condition for septic systems. The repairs. For the repair information that we got back, about 1.6% per year failure rate, which is about 1 home in any given year. And through the modeling that we did, there's about 3% of the annual phosphorus loading to Croton Falls Reservoir. So what's the big picture? So those are the details. The big picture is the conditions may not be as favorable as they could be for septic systems, but we didn't find any evidence of a systematic or premature failure or a direct discharge, which is huge. So when we go through looking at this area, other DEP reports, we found other communities that had direct discharges where it always smelled like sewage or something like that. So it's so we're showing that we didn't find any of those issues. We also found that the distance to the water body there's a pretty good buffer. You got a pretty good buffer here before it gets to Lake Gilead, which is also very important. So anything that's, I think we only had a handful that were less than 200 feet from the water body, and so if you're 50 feet, 100 feet, that's when it gets a little bit. You want to look at that a little bit more, but these were all pretty good distance from the water body. Same with Lakeview Road. Pretty good buffer there, and also goes through the woods in that area. So there's some evidence of failing systems or no record of pump out, but nothing that was, no substantial issue. Yes, go ahead. Yep.
The first paragraph says that you have no evidence of systematic
Yes.
septic, but then on the third paragraph it says that you have some evidence.
Yeah, so what I'm saying there is systematic, meaning like there wasn't we didn't see a lot of failures, but there was some evidence through the DOH records, Department of Health records, that periodically, once a year people are getting their septic systems replaced or getting their leach fields replaced. So there is evidence that it's happening, or through the pump out records. When they do when a contractor come and does a pump out of a septic system, they also do they also write a summary of what they see. And so there was one home that was ponding, and there was a couple of septic tanks that were in poor condition. So there's always going to be something, but we didn't see like a systematic problem. Yep. And so when we look at the cost for the different alternatives, so this, and let me explain what these numbers mean. So this first one is no action, just maintaining a septic system. The next is low pressure sewer. And the last one is for a new service connection to existing sewer. And those are for the homes north of Lake Gilead. So when we looked at the community septic system, we found that the soils there aren't any ideal conditions, and there wasn't a great place to put a community septic system. You'd also have to be pumping from each home. And if you're pumping anyway to get up to the community septic system, why not just put it in the sewer and bring it to the wastewater treatment plant? So that option dropped out for us pretty quick. And so it really came down to either maintaining your septic system, putting in a low pressure sewer, or, well, for some, connecting to if you have the ability to connect to the existing sewer. And so this is the net present cost of alternatives over 30 years. So basically that's how much would it cost you today if you put the money and you put it aside today in order to do these alternatives. And it's broken out by the entire study area.
Kevin, hold on.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, I'm sorry, just one more question. The low pressure sewer, from what you said before, that goes under the road, like the main road? So in these costs, did you provide money for, like, if something happened underneath the road, the highway department would have to go tear it up? We'd have bills from, the contractors. Is the some repairs throughout
Yeah,
the
throughout the
years
30
in there
years.
as well?
Yeah, we look at the design life for the materials, and over 30 years, and we account for what would normally fail. The pumps that would fail or the valves that would fail, and so that's all incorporated into that cost. And when I say the entire study area versus per home, I'm not suggesting that the homeowner would pay for it. I'm just saying, like, for an individual home, these would be the costs. So you can see with the first one, septic system. Well, why is septic system so high at $43,000? Well, it's because you're assuming 2 replacements of a septic system over those 30 years. Like one, if you replace it now, and then within that 30 years, you'd have to replace it again. And so the numbers came out pretty high for what we didn't see that there was a significant issue, and the cost per pound of phosphorus removed would be very high. So our recommendation is no action, is to continue with the septic systems. There's right now, through the town code, there's information in there now that homeowners need to be pumping out their septic system every, I think it's either 3 or 5 years, and having it inspected and maintaining it. And at any point, if it's found that it's not being maintained, then the town has the ability to tell them that they need to correct the issue. But we had some suggestions for a septic system maintenance program if you wanted to go above and beyond with the existing, what's going on existing. You can complete septic system inspections for homes that have no current record. So through our DOH review, there were some that just, there's no record for the DOH that they have septic systems or that they got pumped out. So that'd be one thing to do, is to ask the DOH to go and inspect those homes. You could require a septic inspection at the time of a property transfer. That way, eventually, all these homes are being inspected, and somebody doesn't get stuck with moving into a home that, has a septic issue. Also, reviewing the Department of Health data on an annual basis to see if there's some information that is missing, or it shows that there's a home that has a failing system or a bad, a septic tank in bad, poor condition. You could contact the folks and tell them that they would need to replace it, or providing some educational material for residents. So that's the end of my piece of it, but the takeaway for our recommendation is that to continue with using the septic systems.
One question over here.
Yeah.
Is there grant funding available, do you know of, from east of Hudson for these areas for failing septic systems in these homes?
You have to meet certain criteria for a failing septic system. You have to be within 200 feet of a water body, and you also have to meet income and property value limits.
Yeah,
So
it's
there
a
is,
very
but you have to-
stringent,
it's pretty
stringent methodology. The DEP is just not giving money away. You have to meet certain criteria to get there. And when you say east of Hudson, it's east of Hudson only in name only, in the fact that the DEP is in charge of providing that. I have some information up at my desk. I think the county started sharing that information. There's 4 areas that the DEP will provide funding for with those stringent criteria.
Right.
But not the East of Hudson Watershed Corporation, something completely different. So, but I know the East of Hudson is used in all this. We don't want to confuse the various entities. So.
Okay, thank you.
Also, EFC does have some grants available for if you had a systematic issue with septic systems. They do provide grants for that type of thing under the Water Quality Improvement Program.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Kevin, quick question
Yeah.
on the septic inspection at the time of the transfer.
Yeah.
Do you know, are there other areas within the watershed or, the greater city area that require that now? And does that work effectively?
So I know that it's being done. I don't know specifically in this area who does it, but it is common for different problems within a community. We are involved with another community that requires, for infiltration and inflow into the sewer system, they require a plumber's inspection to confirm that everything's plumbed properly, because they don't want to get extraneous water into the sewer system. And, as far as the septic system inspection at time of transfer, we did see a lot of communities. I couldn't tell you exactly who around here does that.
Okay, but it does exist.
It does exist.
In other places. Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
All right. I'm trapped.
All right. So thank you, council members. Thank you, Rich. And thank you, Kevin, for explaining all the technical stuff. Hopefully it means I can get out of your hair a little quicker. So Hazen and Sawyer was responsible for the 2 study areas listed above, the Mod Pod Brook and the Lake Cassie study areas. So us, along with our subconsultant, JRFA Associates, studied these 2 areas shown here. Lake Cass, shown in the green on the left, and Mud Pond Brook, shown in purple on the right. And so our 2 study areas directly abutted each other, and so they kind of fit together like 2 little puzzle pieces. The Mud Pond Brook study area, of course, includes Mud Pond, as well as the aforementioned Mud Pond Brook. And the Lake Cassie study area includes Lake Cassie, which is this rather large-looking parcel there. You'll notice that the center section of the Mud Pond Brook study area was not included in the study in terms of wastewater flows or loads. and that's because that is a section of commercial parcels along Route 6 that is currently being served by an existing sewer district. That's Carmel Sewer District Number 1, Extension 3. That area was still included in our study area, so we looked at it from a phosphorus modeling standpoint for runoff and whatnot, but not from wastewater contributions. And so our general approach to the evaluation of both existing conditions and study of records largely mirrors what Arcadis did, so I'm not going to repeat it myself, but our Mud Pond Brook study area included 209 non-vacant residential parcels with 2.91 people per parcel, yielding around 82,000 gallons per day of septic effluent. As Kevin mentioned, one of the major assumptions that our water quality modeling is based off of is that well-functioning septic systems that are 250 feet away from surface waters do not meaningfully contribute phosphorus to the watershed. And so looking back on Putnam County Department of Health's septic records, we found that in the Mud Pond Brook study area, we only had a 0.6% per year failure rate for septic systems, approximately 1 to 2 parcels in any given year. So this is below 1% and what we consider to be a low failure rate. Using our modeling, we were able to determine that the phosphorus load from the failing septic systems was responsible for around 9% of the annual phosphorus loading to Mud Pond. That is excluding any sort of phosphorus recycling within the lake, which further represented 0.1% of the total non-point phosphorus load to the Croton Falls Reservoir. And for Lake Cass, 243 non-vacant residential parcels and 2.91 people per parcel, yielding 86,000 approximately gallons per day of septic effluent. Same assumptions and same failure rate, 0.6% per year, less than 1%, and again, a low failure rate. The phosphorus contribution from the septic systems for Lake Cassie represented about 23% of the annual phosphorus loading to Lake Cass and 0.1% of the total non-point source phosphorus load to the Croton Falls Reservoir. The differences between these two percentages for Lake Cassie and Mud Pond Brook can be attributed to land use and some of the other sources of phosphorus in the area. And so this table just shows some of the other contributors of phosphorus to both Mud Pond Brook and Lake Cassie, and puts into perspective what septic is contributing in terms of the totals. I will make a note that these totals here are inclusive of the internal lake loads, which is the percentages in the previous slides were not. So during our study of these two areas, we started to notice that the majority of the problem septic parcels that either had multiple failures or a record of failure happened to be on the east side of the Mud Pond Brook study area and the west side of the Lake Cassie study area. So we drew a little line around that and we referred to it as the cluster. And so the purposes of considering this cluster were perhaps we could more effectively target our wastewater alternatives to address that specific area versus the entirety of either of the study areas. So the average daily flow from that cluster was approximately 39,000 gallons per day. There it is in the yellow. So Lake Cassie, Mud Pond, cluster in the yellow. And so our alternatives were evaluated based off of this selection criteria. Each criteria was given a metric as well as normalization. And so at the end of the day, we could take all of these different criteria and come up with a quantifiable result to compare to the other alternatives. For example, for the economic cost, we were looking at a cost per user number, and the metric was dollars per year of capitalized budget. And the way we were evaluating that was against the current cost of septic. Similarly, for the right-of-way impact, we looked at the linear feet of impact and compared that to, zero right-of-way impact being the most favorable to the higher score being the least favorable. Taking a closer look at the net present cost of the alternatives, you will see that we evaluated them for the cluster, the Mud Pond Brook study area, as well as Lake Cassie study area. And we covered the same options that both Rich and Kevin introduced. So a no action alternative, a septic maintenance district, utilizing advanced on-site septic, which is a different iteration of septic systems that are specifically targeted at removing nutrients, as well as a community septic system, connection to the existing wastewater treatment plant, and the construction of a new wastewater treatment plant. You will see on this chart and the next chart that several options were not considered due to what we identified early on as fatal flaws, things that would take them out of inclusion. And so just from this slide, you can see the no action alternative is the most economically favorable. So we took all of our metrics and we used them to do a multi-criteria decision and essentially come up with a number to represent how favorable each solution was. And for both the study areas in their entirety, as well as the cluster area, it turns out that the no action alternative scored the highest across all the categories. And then what you'll notice is that in the parentheses, the modeling results were affected by whether or not we chose to include the internal recycling of phosphorus within the lake. And so that changed the score, but what you'll see is that it didn't change the ranking whatsoever. In each alternative, regardless of the impacts of internal lake loads of phosphorus, the no action alternative still yielded the highest score and was therefore the recommended alternative. So in conclusion, I think similar to what Arcadis found, we recommended that the no action across the study area had the highest score, and therefore the relatively low potential for further phosphorus reductions from septic systems came at a relatively high cost per user, and as such, the no action alternative was the recommended solution. That is my last slide, so, Rich?
So that concludes it for this study. But thank you all for your time. So are there any questions from the board members or anybody here? Otherwise, just so you know, the ones that were done in down in Westchester, they did have alternatives where they were going with septic maintenance local areas. So ours was a no action, which was specific to the way our systems were. But if you went to Lake Kitchewan and you went to those areas down in Lewisboro, they actually had alternatives where they're either building a new plant or they're building a septic maintenance district for that. It's just what their conclusions came up to because they're closer to the lakes. They're the old lake community, similar to what a Secor is or was, which has been sewered since. So, or Lake Carmel, which has its own issues, which are being trying to be sewered. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
I'll hold on to this. Thanks, Rich.
So I make a motion to adjourn to executive session. Somebody second? Oh, to discuss litigation.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough and Councilman Baranowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, off to executive session. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night. Be safe.